Good evening and welcome to episode 3 of A Quick Word with me, Rebecca. Now this week's episode is a little different as it's our Christmas special. As you know, we celebrate many different cultures and oriental backgrounds in Coláiste, Chiaráin, and for Christmas time we would love to get to know how other people like to celebrate Christmas. Our first guest is our 6th year student, Natalia.
Hi.
Natalia, what country's culture do you celebrate at Christmas time?
Poland.
And what foods do you typically have at Christmas time?
So during Christmas we have a lot of dishes because you're meant to have 12 dishes at Christmas. Personally, my favourite is the mushroom soup but it's forced mushrooms, and balshtadvana, which is beetroot soup with these like ravioli dumpling things. We also have dumplings with cabbage inside of them, or like sauerkraut. We also have a lot of fish because you're not meant to eat meat during Christmas, so you mainly have like carb.
That sounds actually quite nice. What games, activities and family traditions would you have at Christmas time?
The main thing I remember is at Christmas Eve, before we sit down, we all stand up and we have a płatek, which is like a sheet of communion, and you spread it around and people break off pieces while you wish them good luck and happiness for the new year.
That sounds like a lovely family memory. And finally, what's your favourite part about your culture, whether it be during Christmas or just in general?
My favourite thing during Christmas is a childhood memory of believing that pets can talk on Christmas Eve.
Oh my God.
I would always talk to like my cat or my dogs, wishing for them to speak back, because it's a thing that the animals are meant to speak back to you on Christmas Eve.
Well, Natalia, I hope you have a lovely Christmas and a wonderful new year.
Thank you very much.
Now, our second guest today is Ross in 5th year.
Hi.
Ross, what country's culture do you celebrate?
I celebrate Scotland's culture.
What foods would you typically have at Christmas time?
There's not much a difference between Scotland and Ireland, but in Scotland we have our own things like steak pie, stovies, and one really disgusting one of mushy peas and ham.
Oh.
Yeah, we're a very weird country.
Sounds delightful.
It is.
What games, activities and traditions would you typically have at Christmas time?
Scotland would celebrate, they do fireworks displays, Christmas carvels, and a thing that's celebrated between Ireland and Scotland is called Céile, which is traditional barn dances in traditional Scottish clothing, and for men we'll wear kilts.
Very cool. And what's your favourite part about your culture, whether it be during Christmas time or just in general?
I'd say going over, visiting the family, not seeing them for ages, exploring Glasgow and Edinburgh, just seeing the dry skis clubs would be my favourite one, more particular in terms of activities. Scotland's big into their skiing over there, so it's great fun.
They sound like lovely memories.
Thank
Happy
you.
Christmas.
You
Thank
too.
you. Now, our third guest today is Maxim from 4th year.
Hi,
Maxim, what country's culture do you celebrate at Christmas time?
I am originally Congolese, so we would celebrate like Congolese traditions.
What foods would you typically have at Christmas time?
So in the morning, we would usually have beignet, which is kind of like a cake kind of thing. We would use like flour and sugar and a bit of milk, and we'd put in like a pot of boiling water and we eat that with like maybe like a glass of milk or like even orange juice. During the day, we would have like plantain, which is fried banana. And at night, we would have like this drink is called champomy. It's like wine, a kind of wine champagne, which kids can drink, which is non-alcoholic. So when big adults were having their wine, we would drink that.
What games, activities or even family traditions would you have at Christmas time?
So we would usually write each other Christmas cards, like mini Christmas cards. We would give them to each other. We'd also make Christmas cookies as like our desserts. And we would also watch fun Christmas movies, kind of just to end off the day.
They're really good memories. What's your favourite part about your culture, whether it be during Christmas or just in general?
Well, I love my culture, but I think probably the food. Yeah, I think the food is probably the best part. And also, like growing up with it, it's all I've ever known, to be honest. So I just love it, to be honest. That's all.
Really great. Thank you, Maxim.
Thank you.
Now, our 4th guest today is Ria from 4th year.
Hi.
Ria, what country's culture do you celebrate at Christmas?
I'm from India, so we celebrate like the Indian culture. So basically, we have very few Christians who are in India because of the population. So, yeah.
What foods do you typically have at Christmas time?
Usually we have loads of sweets and snacks, and it varies from different places in India. And our main dinner, I'd say, is biryani, and I think it's one of the most iconic foods which we have.
That sounds delicious. What games, activities or traditions do you typically have with your family?
Yeah, we usually gather our friends and family and extended family on Christmas Day because like we have loads of family members and we have a midnight Christmas mass on the 24th. So we go exactly around 11, so it finishes by 12 and we celebrate Christmas at midnight and we exchange gifts with friends and family.
That sounds like a wonderful memory. And finally, what's your favourite part about your culture?
The favorite part of my culture would be the clothes and the food. It's like one of the most favorite things about my culture, which I really appreciate and I really love. And I'm like so happy to be part of this country.
Thank you so much, Ria. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas.
Thank you so much.
Our fifth guest today is Janella from 4th year.
Hi,
Janella, what country's culture do you celebrate at Christmas time?
I celebrate Filipino Christmas, so basically the Philippines traditions.
What foods do you typically have at Christmas time?
I usually have, they're all different foods. We have rice, obviously, because you can't miss that in Filipino foods. We get like lumpia, which is spring rolls, and just a bunch of other foods that we wouldn't usually have.
What games, activities and traditions do you have with your family?
So one tradition is that we celebrate the longest Christmas in the world. We celebrate it from September all the way to December. Basically, no, September all the way to January because it's called the Bear Month. And then we keep our Christmas decorations until January for New Year. And then on the day of Christmas, we'd go around houses to houses with our godfathers, godmother. We'd knock on their doors and then they'd give us usually present. And then they'll give us, obviously, a tradition is we have to take their hand, put it on their forehead. It's like, yeah. And then they give us presents and everything.
They sound like a really wonderful memory.
It is.
And finally, what's your favourite part about your culture?
I'd say Christmas and New Year because, like, here in Ireland, we don't really do much how we would in the Philippines. So New Year in the Philippines would get a lot of poppers and it will be really noisy. And here it's like, you can't be noisy.
That sounds like a wonderful Christmas. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas and a very happy New Year.
Thank you.
Now, our sixth guest today is Tirma from 3rd year. Tirma, what country's culture do you celebrate at Christmas time?
I celebrate Iran's culture and we celebrate it on the 21st of December. It's called Shab Yalda and we celebrate it. It's basically celebrating the new year to come.
What foods do you typically have?
We basically have for the night we have a full desk full of, it's like a whole table and we decorate it. And so foods like watermelon, pomegranate, desserts, poets, because we have a lot of very important poets in my country. So, and it's just, and people make homemade foods, so rice, stews, all that stuff.
They sound like lovely memories. What games, activities or traditions do you typically have?
After all of us eat, we sit around a corsi. It's basically a desk, kind of, it's, waist length.
Yeah.
And there's a there's a heater under it, and everyone sits under it with it's a cloth. There's a cloth on it as well, so the heat stays in. And we just sit down and we just all talk, have fun, read stories, retell stories, and everything.
That sounds beautiful. And what's your favourite part about your culture, whether it be during Christmas time or just in general?
Honestly, just the way everyone's really. No one makes no one uncomfortable, so we're all just really open and honest, and we all try to make sure everyone's having a great time.
That sounds like a beautiful Christmas.
Yeah.
I hope you have a wonderful Christmas and a Merry New Year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, our 7th guest today is Lily from 2nd year.
Hi.
Lily, what country's culture do you celebrate at Christmas time?
Chinese culture.
And what foods would you typically have?
There's really no traditional food for Christmas. We kind of usually we'd eat things that we don't really usually eat, like expensive food, like seafood, stuff like that.
What games, activities and traditions would you typically have with your family?
We'd give out the adults would give red packets to the children, and they usually contain money in them, because even though it's more for New Year's, we also use it for Christmas in China as well.
They sound like beautiful memories.
Yeah.
And then what's your favourite part about your culture, whether it be during Christmas or in general?
In general, I like the history of our culture. And for Christmas, it's the one time a year everyone takes a day off work to stay and hang out together. So I'd say that's probably my favorite part about Christmas.
That sounds like a wonderful Christmas.
Yeah.
Our final guest today is Louisa from first year.
Hi.
Louisa, what country's culture do you celebrate?
Brazilian culture.
And what typical foods would you have at Christmas time?
We have 2 typical foods. The first one is the salpicão, which is a chicken salad with a lot of vegetables and mayo in it. And the other one is the arroz à grega, which is rice with raisins, and you can put vegetables in it as well.
They sound delicious. What games, activities, and typical family traditions would you have?
We have a lot of games, and one of them is Amigo da Onça, which translating is Friend of the Jaguar, and it's a really nice game. We exchange gifts at Christmas Eve, the 24th of December, and on the next day we have a dinner around 12 p.m. and like it's a traditional thing to do in Brazil.
That sounds like a lovely family memory. And finally, what's your favourite part about your culture?
My favorite part is the games because we have a lot of fun and yeah.
Thank you, Louisa. That's all for this week's episode, guys. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year from all of us here on the Quick Break team. Look at this big screen.
Hi, Rebecca. Wait 1 second. I'm doing this.
Are we okay? What's the ugliest yawn face ever?
Get me out of here.
You're gonna make me yawn now.